It has now been several years since the trial that stunned Maple Hollow. Holly Rains, once a trusted nurse and beloved twin sister, remains behind prison walls, serving a sentence of 25 years to life for the murder of her identical twin, Hannah. But as the years pass, one truth becomes clear. While a verdict was delivered in court, the case has never truly left Maple Hollow. The shadows of that Valentine's night linger still, in whispered rumors, in unanswered questions, and in the uneasy silence of a town forever marked by betrayal. In 2025, local reporters unearthed a set of files from the original investigation. Among them was a small but curious detail: a single fingerprint found on the passenger side door of Hannah's abandoned car. At the time, investigators had dismissed it as unusable due to smudging. But in recent years, advances in forensic technology raised the possibility that it could be reanalyzed. This revelation reignited speculation. If the fingerprint didn't belong to Holly, could someone else have been with Hannah that night? Was Holly truly acting alone, or had the town rushed to judgment, eager to close the book on a crime that seemed too horrifying to leave unresolved? Detectives who worked the case stood by the conviction. They insisted the physical evidence, the flashlight, the blood, the notes, all pointed to Holly. But for many in Maple Hollow, the discovery stirred old doubts. Then there were the flowers. Every Valentine's Day, without fail, fresh blooms appeared on Hannah's grave. Some believed it was Dr. Alan Keats, Hannah's former lover, paying his respects in secret. Others thought it was Hannah's parents, unwilling to let the town see their grief. A handful of conspiracy-minded locals even whispered that the flowers meant Hannah's story wasn't over, that someone else, someone still free, had played a role in her death. Reporters tried to solve the mystery, camping out near the cemetery on Valentine's night. But the flowers always appeared quietly, as though placed by a hand that refused to be seen. In early 2027, Holly Rains was granted her first parole hearing. By then, she had served 5 years in prison. The hearing room was stark, lit by fluorescent bulbs that buzzed softly overhead. Holly sat at a table, her hair pulled back, her prison uniform neatly pressed. Across from her, the parole board reviewed her case. She spoke softly, describing her years of regret and her hope for forgiveness. "I lost my sister, my best friend, and I can never take that back," she said. "I wake up every day wishing I could undo that night. If I could trade places with her, I would." Some board members were moved. Others were unmoved, pointing to the brutality of the crime and the lingering doubts about her story. The families of Maple Hollow filled the gallery. Some cried quietly. Others shook their heads in disbelief, unwilling to forgive. When the decision was read, Holly's request for parole was denied. She would remain behind bars, eligible to apply again in 5 years. For the town, the denial brought a strange mix of relief and disappointment. Relief because Holly would not be walking their streets again. Disappointment because the questions surrounding the case still felt unresolved. Through it all, one figure loomed quietly on the sidelines: Dr. Alan Keats. After resigning from the hospital, Keats moved several states away. He rarely spoke publicly, but in a single interview given to a regional newspaper, he admitted that the affair with Hannah had been a mistake he regretted deeply. He denied any role in her death, insisting that his alibi had been rock solid. And yet, the town could never quite let him go. Some believed Hannah had threatened to expose the affair, and that Keats had more reason than anyone to want her silenced. Others argued that Holly's resentment toward Hannah may have been magnified by the scandal. Keats himself seemed to live under a cloud. His medical license was eventually suspended for unrelated reasons, and he vanished from public life. But for Maple Hollow, his name remains tied to the case, a thread in a web of betrayal and suspicion. By the late 2020s, Maple Hollow had changed. New businesses opened, families moved in, and the town worked hard to project its postcard-perfect charm once more. But beneath the surface, the Rains case was never far from memory. Teachers used it as a cautionary tale. Local authors wrote books about it. True crime podcasts revisited the case, each offering their own theories. Some suggested Holly had acted alone. Others insisted there was more to the story, perhaps a cover-up, perhaps another player in the shadows. And for the Rains family, the pain remained constant. Friends say the parents rarely speak of their daughters in public. Their home, once filled with laughter and Sunday dinners, has grown quiet. For them, the trial never ended. As the years pass, several mysteries continue to haunt the case. The fingerprint, was it ever properly analyzed? Could it belong to someone other than Holly? The flowers, who leaves them every Valentine's Day, and why? Holly's letters, were her claims of hearing Hannah's voice the guilt of a killer, or the torment of someone wrongly convicted? Each question keeps the story alive, fueling speculation and ensuring that Maple Hollow can never fully escape its past. The story of Hannah and Holly Rains is no longer just a crime in a small town. It has become a legend, a cautionary tale, and a wound that refuses to heal. Because when one twin kills another, the loss is doubled. A family is shattered, a town is scarred, and the line between love and hate becomes so thin it's almost invisible. Today, Maple Hollow tries to move forward. But every Valentine's Day, when flowers appear on Hannah's grave and whispers drift once more through the quiet streets, the town is reminded of a chilling truth. Some stories never truly end. Some shadows never fade. And in Maple Hollow, the shadow of the Rains twins will haunt the town for generations to come. For more than 10 years, Maple Hollow lived under the belief that Holly Rains killed her twin sister, Hannah. The trial, the verdict, and the conviction had sealed the story. Jealousy and rivalry between sisters had turned fatal. But in 2034, a discovery cracked the case wide open. A single fingerprint, found on Hannah's abandoned car all those years ago, was reanalyzed with new forensic technology. The match pointed not to Holly, not to Dr. Alan Keats, but to a man named Ethan Cole. And suddenly, the story that Maple Hollow thought it knew unraveled into uncertainty once again. Ethan Cole was 52 years old when police showed up at his small rental home 2 counties away. He had a criminal history, burglary, assault, and domestic violence charges, but nothing as serious as murder. Still, the print tied him to Hannah's car, and detectives wanted answers. Neighbors watched in shock as Cole was led away in handcuffs. Some said he had always been odd, drifting from job to job, never staying in one place too long. Others described him as quiet, keeping mostly to himself. In the interrogation room, Cole denied everything. "I don't know her. I never met her. I don't know how my print got on that car." Detectives pressed harder. Had he been in Maple Hollow in February of 2022? Did he know Hannah through the hospital? Was he in the woods that night? But Cole's answers never wavered. No. News of Cole's arrest exploded in Maple Hollow. For some, it was vindication. They had never fully believed Holly was guilty. For years, they had whispered doubts about the case, about the evidence, about whether the trial had been too quick to paint her as the villain. Others resisted the idea. If Cole was guilty, what did that mean about Holly? Was she innocent, or worse? Had the two of them crossed paths that night, both playing roles in Hannah's death? The debate tore open old wounds. Once again, Maple Hollow found itself divided. When Holly heard the news from her attorney, she reportedly wept uncontrollably. For years, she had lived with the label of twin killer, despised by strangers, pitted by some, hated by many. Now, for the first time, there was hope that someone might finally believe her. Her attorney immediately filed a motion to reopen the case, arguing that Cole's fingerprint introduced reasonable doubt that should overturn her conviction. Holly released a statement. "I never wanted Hannah to die. I loved her more than anyone. If this man hurt her, then the world needs to know. I want justice, not just for me, but for her." But prosecutors resisted. To them, the case against Holly was still strong. The flashlight in her garage, her fingerprints, her admission of following Hannah into the woods. The fingerprint alone, they argued, wasn't enough to erase all that. As journalists dug into Ethan Cole's background, disturbing details emerged. In 2021, just a year before Hannah's death, Cole had been questioned in connection with a missing woman in a nearby county. She was never found, and charges were never filed. In 2018, he was arrested for assault after attacking a coworker during a construction job. And in the late 2000s, Cole had briefly worked as a hospital janitor at a facility less than 20 miles from where Hannah and Holly were employed. Did Cole know Hannah from those years? Did he follow her the night she vanished? Or was the fingerprint nothing more than a coincidence from some earlier, unrelated encounter? Maple Hollow felt the tension immediately. Local businesses put televisions in their windows, replaying news reports about Cole. At the diner on Main Street, conversations stopped whenever his name came up. Parents who had once feared Holly now whispered a new terror. Had a stranger been hunting their town all along? Meanwhile, the cemetery drew more visitors than ever. Hannah's grave was covered with flowers, candles, and notes. But the mysterious Valentine's Day bouquet, the one that had appeared every year without explanation, still returned. The questions only grew louder. Who was leaving them, and why? In late 2035, Holly's legal team secured a hearing to review her conviction in light of the new evidence. In the packed courtroom, the atmosphere was electric. On one side sat Holly, thinner now, her face lined by prison years but her eyes burning with determination. On the other side sat prosecutors, grim and resolute, unwilling to concede the case they had fought so hard to win. Experts testified about the fingerprint. Some argued it was proof of Cole's presence the night of the murder. Others cautioned that it only proved contact with the car at some point, not necessarily that he had killed Hannah. When Holly took the stand, she spoke with a clarity she had never shown before. I followed Hannah that night. We argued. I shouldn't have left her alone, but I did. I didn't kill her. I've said that from the beginning. Maybe now you'll believe me. The judge promised to consider the evidence carefully, but a ruling could take months. As the hearing dragged on, Cole remained in custody, but charges against him stalled. Without direct evidence linking him to Hannah's death, prosecutors hesitated. This left Maple Hollow in limbo once again. Was Holly a murderer? Was Cole? Were they both? Or was the truth something even darker? Something no one had yet uncovered? By the end of 2035, the story of the Raines twins had stretched across nearly 15 years. What began as a tragic Valentine's Day disappearance had evolved into a tale of suspicion, betrayal, and unanswered questions. And yet, the truth remained elusive. Holly sat in her cell, waiting for a judge to decide her fate. Cole sat in another, denying everything. Hannah lay in her grave, her voice silenced forever. And Maple Hollow continued to live in the shadow of a crime that refused to stay buried. Because sometimes justice isn't clear. Sometimes guilt and innocence blur together until no one can tell the difference. And sometimes the real killer may still be out there. End of part 2. Please subscribe for more. Part 3 Louding.